Hello, tonight we will once again drift into a peaceful and restful sleep together. Close your eyes, take a deep breath, and let yourself be carried away by the flow of this serene story. In a world where time stands still and memories come alive, everything is calm and soothing. If you're ready, let's begin. The Moonlight Lake far away, deep within a dark forest, there was a lake that only glowed at night. When the moonlight touched its surface, the water shimmered like crystal, creating the illusion that stars were dancing within its depths. People called this enchanting place the Moonlight Lake. Many legends were told about the lake, but the most well-known was the tale that it could bring forgotten wishes back to life. One night, a young traveler arrived near the lake. His name was Eiren. He felt as though something was missing in his life, though he couldn't quite say what it was. Deep inside, he yearned for peace. He had heard the legend of the Moonlight Lake and believed that if he could reach it, he might finally understand what was missing. When Eiren arrived at the lake, everything was still and silent. Only a gentle breeze stirred, brushing through the leaves and creating a soft melody. The lake's surface reflected the moonlight like a luminous mirror. Its glow was so calming that Eiren found himself sitting by the edge, gazing silently at the water. As he stared at the serene surface, he suddenly noticed a ripple disturbing the stillness. A soft sound followed, a voice, delicate and soothing, that brought peace rather than fear. "Welcome, Eiren," the voice said, as though it had known him for years. Startled, Eiren looked around but saw no one. "Who are you and how do you know my name?" he asked. The lake's light shimmered gently in response. "I am the echo of wishes. This is a place where everyone meets the wishes that come from their hearts. I know you've come here because of a wish. But remember, a wish can only come to life if it is remembered." Eiren took a deep breath, letting the lake's words sink in. He felt there was a wish buried somewhere inside him, but he couldn't quite recall what it was. As he looked at the shimmering surface of the lake again, an image began to form in the water. It was a scene of a little boy standing under a sky full of stars, his arms outstretched. That boy was young Eiren. Beneath the starlight, the boy was making a heartfelt wish. "I want to be happy," the boy said. "I want a world full of love." The forgotten wish awakened something deep within Eiren's heart. This innocent desire from his childhood, long buried in his memory, was now surfacing once again. The lake spoke softly once more. "Your wish will no longer be lost, Eiren. By remembering it, you have brought light back into your heart." That night, under the soothing glow of the Moonlight Lake, Eiren rediscovered not only his wish, but also the light within himself. As he left the lake, he no longer felt incomplete, for he now understood that what he had been missing was a light he had always carried, but had forgotten. That night, Eiren didn't just find a lake, he found himself. And on that same night, the Moonlight Lake sent another lost wish into the sky. The shimmering light on the lake's surface rose to the heavens, becoming a beacon of hope that illuminated the dark night. As Eiren walked away from the Moonlight Lake, he tilted his head upward to gaze at the stars. They seemed to wink at him, as if smiling warmly. He felt a comforting warmth in his heart and a clarity in his mind that he hadn't experienced in a long time. He had remembered his wish, and he now knew it was an inseparable part of his soul. But as he ventured further from the lake, a question began to linger in his thoughts. Who else might have come to this lake in search of their forgotten wishes? This question occupied Eiren's mind as he walked. Every step seemed to take him not just forward on his path, but deeper into thoughts of other stories and other wishes. Perhaps the lake didn't just hold his wish, perhaps it carried the long-forgotten dreams of many others. Were those wishes still waiting at the lake? Or had they somehow returned to the hearts of their owners? With these thoughts swirling in his mind, Eiren arrived at a small village. It was a quiet and peaceful place. The villagers appeared absorbed in their daily routines, their lives seemingly untroubled. But as Eiren looked closer, he noticed something. In their expressions, a subtle weariness, as if they were each carrying a wish they had long forgotten. In the village square, an elderly man sat on a bench observing Eiren with kind but knowing eyes. "You're a traveler, aren't you?" the man said with a gentle smile. "I can tell. Do you have a story to share? Eiren paused for a moment, then walked over to the man. Yes, he replied. I do. He began to recount his journey to the Moonlight Lake, the whispers he had heard there, and how he had rediscovered his forgotten wish. As Eiren spoke, people in the square began to gather around him, drawn in by his words. They listened with quiet wonder, their eyes fixed on him as if his story had awakened something deep within them. When Eiren finished, a stillness hung in the air. Finally, the old man let out a deep breath and smiled wistfully. Ah, the Moonlight Lake, he said, his gaze drifting off into the distance. We used to hear tales about that place. They said it was a source of hope, but none of us ever had the chance to truly believe it existed. Your story, perhaps it's a sign for us to remember the wishes we've left behind. The old man's words lit a spark within Eiren. Perhaps his experience at the Moonlight Lake wasn't meant for him alone. Maybe his story could help others find their forgotten wishes as well. As Eiren left the village that day, he made a decision. He would dedicate himself to helping others rediscover their own wishes, lighting the way for those who had forgotten the dreams they once held dear. From that day on, Eiren began to share the story of the Moonlight Lake wherever he went. His words awakened hidden wishes in those who listened, carrying a piece of the lake's light into their hearts. People began to see Eiren not just as a traveler, but as a beacon of hope, carrying light through the darkness. Months passed. As Eiren continued to wander beneath the vast sky, discovering new stories and wishes, he noticed something one quiet night. Among the stars, there was a sign, a single star that seemed to wink at him, familiar and comforting. Eiren paused and lifted his gaze to the heavens. It felt as if the Moonlight Lake was still with him, guiding his path. In that moment, Eiren realized that this star wasn't just carrying his wish, it held the forgotten dreams of others as well. A smile spread across his face. He knew his journey wasn't over, and that every star illuminated another story. The sky had become an endless map of wishes, shining with the light of countless dreams. And so Eiren's story became a part of the Moonlight Lake itself. The lake carried his tale on whispering winds, delivering hope to one heart after another. Night after night, while the Moonlight Lake continued to remind people of their forgotten wishes, Eiren's story lived on as a quiet but powerful echo among the stars. The story Eiren told began to spread from village to village, town to town. As more people heard of the lake's magic, some found the courage to seek it out, while others discovered their own forgotten wishes through Eiren's words. And with each passing day, as Eiren saw the impact of his stories, he realized that this journey was only the beginning. The Moonlight Lake was not just a place, it was a mirror of human hopes and forgotten dreams. One day, Eiren reached a forest unlike any he had ever seen before. The leaves shimmered with a dark, almost mysterious green, and the branches didn't sway with the wind. Instead, they seemed to tremble with whispers, as if something hidden was speaking through them. There was an undeniable strangeness about this forest. Eiren felt the presence of the lake's whisper here. His heart told him that a piece of the lake's magic was hidden somewhere in this place. As he ventured deeper into the forest, the whispers grew clearer. But these weren't the gentle, soothing whispers of the Moonlight Lake. These were voices filled with fear and regret, the echoes of heavy hearts weighed down by darkness. Finally, Eiren came upon a small pool tucked away in the heart of the forest. This pool was nothing like the Moonlight Lake. Its water was dark and still, almost unnervingly deep, as if it could pull you into its shadowy depths. As Eiren approached the pool, he noticed movement on its surface. The water rippled slightly and a vision appeared, the face of a crying child. The child was reaching out, trying desperately to hold onto a star, but the star kept slipping from his grasp. Eiren stared at the vision, drawn in by its sorrow. He leaned closer to the pool, and then he heard it speak. "This is the pool of fears and regrets," it said, its voice quiet yet resonant. "Here lie the traces of unfulfilled wishes, but these wishes can return to the light, if they are remembered once more." Eiren gazed into the water, and for a brief moment his own reflection stared back at him. But it wasn't the peaceful face he had seen at the Moonlight Lake. His eyes were filled with doubt and worry. At that moment, Eiren realized a profound truth. This pool didn't just reflect the unfulfilled wishes of others, it also revealed the deepest fears hidden within his own heart. The wish he had rediscovered at the Moonlight Lake was only part of his story. Beneath the surface, there was another truth he hadn't yet faced, a fear of failure. Eiren took a deep breath, looked into the water, and, almost like an admission, spoke softly to himself, "Feeling this fear doesn't make me weak. This fear makes me stronger." With those words, the surface of the pool began to shift. Within the dark water, a faint light appeared. Eiren realized that the lesson he had learned at the Moonlight Lake was presenting itself again. Facing his fears was part of finding the light. In that moment, the pool gently rippled, and a star began to shine on its surface. This star reflected not only Eiren's deepest fears, but also the echoes of the pool's own hidden darkness. Eiren reached out and held the star in his hands, its glow filling him with warmth. The star whispered to him, its voice calm and reassuring. Every fear can become a wish, and darkness fades only when it is embraced. As the star's light intensified, the pool's dark surface began to glow. The vision of the child reappeared on the water, still reaching for the elusive star. But this time the scene had changed. The child had caught the star and now shone brightly with it. Slowly, a brilliant star rose from the depths of the pool. It was a piece of the Moonlight Lake, yet it was unlike any other star. Its light was stronger, carrying a profound sense of balance. As Eiren held the star, the pool's voice echoed once more. "Now fear and hope are one. This star will restore the balance." Eiren realized that this was no ordinary light. This star wasn't just a beacon of hope, it was also a guide to help people accept their fears. Rather than releasing the star into the sky, Eiren decided to carry it with him. The star had become his guide, a living piece of the Moonlight Lake. As Eiren left the pool and made his way out of the forest, he looked up at the sky. The stars seemed brighter than ever. The star in his hands radiated a gentle warmth, illuminating his every step. But this time, Eiren was not just a storyteller. He was a guide, teaching people to find strength in their darkness. Thus, the legend of the Moonlight Lake and the light it carried spread with Eiren from village to village. In every place he visited, hope and courage blossomed. The lake's light was no longer just a myth. It had become a growing truth in the hearts of people. And with Eiren's journey, new stars were born. The star Eiren carried grew stronger. With each step, its light reaching farther and deeper. But its radiance was not just a beacon. It reflected the fears and regrets hidden within those it touched. As Eiren understood this more and more, he realized that the star's power was far greater than that of a simple light. This star had become a symbol of resilience, empowering those who faced their fears to transform them into wishes. One night, Eiren arrived at a small, quiet town. At first glance, it seemed ordinary, but something was missing. The streets were dimly lit by only a few flickering lanterns, and the townspeople carried an air of unease. In the town square, a group of people had gathered, their voices low and urgent. Eiren approached quietly, listening to their murmurs. The townspeople spoke of the stars vanishing from the sky, one by one. Their faces were filled with worry, their voices trembling with fear. "If the stars disappear, our wishes will vanish too," an elderly woman said, her voice shaking. "When the sky turns dark, what will we do? Will we ever see the light again?" whispered another. Eiren could feel the weight of their fear. He held the star in his hands and raised it slightly. Its gentle light began to glow, casting a soft radiance across the square. The people fell silent, their attention drawn to the warmth of the star's glow. Eiren turned to face them and spoke in a calm, steady voice. "Stars don't only shine in the sky. They are reflections of the hope you carry in your hearts. If you can accept your fears and draw strength from them, the stars will never truly fade." As the townspeople listened, their unease began to dissolve. The square filled with the star's warm light, and it seemed to lift the darkness from their faces. The star didn't just illuminate the square, it brought a renewed sense of hope to each of them. That night, Eiren reminded the people of the town not only of the star's light, but also of their own. As he left the town, he looked back at the sky. The stars seemed to shine brighter than before, not just in the heavens, but within the hearts of the people below. Eiren knew this journey wasn't an end, but the beginning of a greater story. And the star he carried was the key to that story. Still, a quiet unease stirred in Eiren's heart. If the stars were fading, it couldn't simply be a problem tied to the Moonlight Lake. It was a sign that humanity's hopes were also in danger. Among the crowd, a man noticed the star in Eiren's hands, his eyes widening with awe. That light. That star is different. Where did you find it? He asked, his voice filled with wonder. Eiren explained that the star came from the Moonlight Lake, a fragment of forgotten wishes. The townspeople began to believe that this star might be able to dispel their town's darkness. But from the crowd, an elderly woman stepped forward. She gently placed her hand on Eiren's shoulder and spoke in a voice both soft and firm. "This star doesn't just bring light," she said. "It carries the weight of fear as well. If you're not ready, its light may falter against the darkness." Her words gave Eiren pause. He knew the star carried a delicate balance of light and shadow, but he realized in that moment that maintaining this balance wasn't just about helping others, it was about confronting his own fears. To unlock the star's full power, he would need to face the doubts and insecurities hidden within himself. Eiren raised the star high in the town square. As its light spread, people began to voice their fears and wishes aloud. One man spoke of losing someone he loved and his fear of starting over. A young girl admitted her anxiety about failing to achieve her dreams. The star's light seemed to grow stronger with each confession, but then it began to waver. It was as though the weight of so many fears was too much for it to bear. Eiren clutched the star tightly and closed his eyes. It was time to confront his own fears. The star reflected them back to him, a fear of failure, of not being brave enough, of disappointing those who trusted him. Eiren acknowledged each one, realizing they were as much a part of him as his hope and courage. But instead of resisting them, he embraced them. He whispered to the star, "My fears define me, but they do not control me. They are the reason my light shines stronger." With those words, the star's light surged, filling the square and dispelling the darkness in the streets. The people felt not just the light of the star, but the light within themselves. Their fears were no longer barriers but guides, leading them to rediscover their courage. That night, Eiren realized the star was not merely a guide, but a symbol born from the union of light and shadow. Carrying its light was no longer just a task. It had become his responsibility to protect its balance. As he left the town, the people waved at him with gratitude, their faces alight with newfound hope. Eiren's journey was far from over. With every step, he carried the star's light to more people, rekindling forgotten wishes and understanding the delicate dance between light and darkness. Every new place brought new stories and lessons, and with each, the star's light grew brighter. Through Eiren, the star became a vessel of humanity's hopes and fears, shining ever stronger as it guided the way forward. Eiren took a deep breath, gazing at the water, and almost as if confessing to himself, he spoke softly. "Feeling this, fear doesn't weaken me. This fear makes me stronger." With those words, the surface of the pool began to shift. Within the dark water, a faint light emerged. Eiren realized that the lesson he had learned at the Moonlight Lake was revealing itself once again. Facing his fears was part of finding the light. The pool rippled gently and a star appeared on its surface. This star reflected not only Eiren's deepest fears, but also the echoes of the pool's hidden darkness. Eiren reached out and held the star in his hands, its glow filling him with warmth. The star whispered softly to him, "Every fear can become a wish, and darkness fades only when it is embraced." As the star's light intensified, the pool's dark surface began to glow. Within the shimmering light, a vision appeared. The child who had reached for the elusive star reappeared. But this time the scene was different. The child had caught the star and now glowed brightly alongside it. Slowly, a radiant star rose from the depths of the pool. It was a piece of the Moonlight Lake, yet it was unlike any other star Eiren had seen before. Its light carried an unmistakable strength and balance. Eiren held the star close, feeling its warmth spread through him. The pool's voice echoed once more, "Now fear and hope are one. This star will restore balance." Eiren realized that this was no ordinary star. It wasn't just a beacon of hope, it was also a guide to help people accept their fears. Rather than releasing the star into the sky, Eiren decided to carry it with him. The star had become his guide, a living fragment of the Moonlight Lake. As Eiren left the pool and emerged from the forest, he looked up at the sky. The stars above seemed brighter than ever, as if responding to the light he carried. The star in his hands radiated a gentle warmth, illuminating every step he took. But this time, Eiren was no longer just a storyteller. He was a guide, teaching people to find strength in their fears. Thus, the legend of the Moonlight Lake and its guiding light spread with Eiren from village to village. In every place he visited, hope and courage blossomed. The light of the lake was no longer just a myth. It had become a growing truth in the hearts of those who heard Eiren's story. With every step he took, new stars were born. The star Eiren carried grew brighter and stronger with each step, its light reaching deeper into the hearts of those it touched. But its radiance was not just a beacon, it reflected the fears and regrets hidden within those who gazed at it. As Eiren came to understand this more deeply, he realized that the star's power was far greater than he had ever imagined. It was no longer just a light. It had become a symbol of resilience, empowering those who faced their fears to transform them into wishes. One night, Eiren arrived at a small, quiet town. At first glance, the town seemed ordinary, but something was missing. The streets were dimly lit by only a few flickering lanterns, and the people carried an air of unease. In the town square, a group had gathered, their voices low and anxious. Eiren approached quietly, listening to their murmurs. The townspeople spoke of stars disappearing from the sky, one by one. Their faces were filled with worry, and their voices trembled with fear. "If the stars vanish, so will our wishes," said an elderly woman, her voice shaking. "When the sky turns dark, what will we do? Will we ever see the light again?" whispered another. Eiren could feel the weight of their fear. He held the star in his hands and raised it slightly. Its gentle glow began to spread, casting a warm light over the square. The people fell silent, their attention drawn to the star's radiance. Eiren turned to them and spoke in a calm, steady voice. "The stars don't only shine in the sky. They are reflections of the hope you carry in your hearts. If you can accept your fears and draw strength from them, the stars will never truly fade." As the townspeople listened, their unease began to dissolve. The square was bathed in the star's warm light, lifting the shadows from their faces. The star wasn't just illuminating the square, it was reminding everyone of the light they carried within themselves. That night, Eiren showed the townspeople not just the light of the star, but the light within their own hearts. As he left the town, he looked up at the sky. The stars seemed brighter, not just in the heavens, but in the hearts of the people below. Eiren knew this journey was not an end, but the beginning of a greater story. And the star he carried was the key to that story. Still, a quiet unease stirred in Eiren's heart. If the stars were fading, it couldn't simply be a problem tied to the Moonlight Lake. It was a sign that humanity's hopes were in danger. As he continued his journey, the star glowed brighter than ever. But as Eiren gazed into the distance, he saw something that stopped him in his tracks. Far on the horizon, splitting the night sky in two, was a crack, a dark fissure that seemed to tear through the heavens. The light of the stars around it dimmed as the crack spread, an ominous void threatening to swallow the sky. Eiren felt his heart quicken. This crack wasn't just a tear in the sky. It was the culmination of all the fears and forgotten dreams that had gone unresolved. It was the final test, the ultimate challenge. The balance of light and darkness, not just within the star but within all things, was now in his hands. Clutching the star tightly, Eiren took a deep breath and whispered, "We'll face this together." With unwavering determination, he began his journey toward the crack. Each step brought him closer to the heart of the darkness. The star's light grew stronger and steadier, illuminating his path even as the void loomed larger. Eiren knew this was the moment everything had been leading to, the moment when the light of the star and the darkness of the void would meet, not as enemies, but as equals.